Okay, I actually finished a few books. Let's get to it. Hi everyone, I'm Sandy and welcome back to my channel. Today I have a 1001 book countdown for you. If you're not familiar with the 1001 book countdown, I will leave a card up here for you where you can go and check out the original video. But basically it's book reviews where I'm reading books off of the 1001 books that you must read before you die list. I combined all editions of that together and ended up with over 1,300 books, and I'm just slowly working my way through that particular list. I started documenting this out here on YouTube when I got to about 1,001 left, and have been just slowly working my way through. This is a passion project for a number of years, and I'm really enjoying it still. I'm enjoying it far more since I started documenting out here on YouTube. I also have a horrible memory, so this is a great reminder of what I actually felt about the books. But consider giving me a subscribe and sticking around and seeing how far I make it on this project. To finish, I believe it will take me, at my current pace, 15 years-ish. So yeah, so I'm in for the long haul on this one. We'll see how it goes. But for today, what we will go ahead and do is put up the numbers, which are 874, which is my grand total that I have left out of the 1,300 books, and 36. What I do every year at the beginning of the year is pre-select 52 books that I want to try and focus on the year, with the idea of reading one per week and then getting that number down to 0 by the end of the year. Right now, I'm at 36. At the end of June, I should have been at 26. I guarantee you I don't have 10 books today. So I am very officially behind. I know I'm behind, but I'm trying to be okay with that. Trying. I had a pretty big slump in June where I didn't want to pick up really any book, and it kind of ties back a little bit to reading the BookTube Prize and reading some big chunky books in there. And then I tackled Borges at the beginning of the month, and it just set me back quite a bit this month with most of my reading. I'm extremely thankful that I had some buddy reads set up, that I had said, oh, I'll start in the middle of the month, which just let me push them off a little too long. And then it was a bit of a struggle to want to read those as well. But reading slumps are a real thing, everyone. It's been tough. I do have a few books that to go over today, but I don't know how fully I'm out of that kind of mindset. So we'll see what happens in the next couple of weeks. It'll be very telling. But the first book that I'm going to talk about is this one, Americana by Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie. This book was originally published in 2013, and this author only has 2 books on the 1001 book countdown, this one and Half of a Yellow Sun, which I read before starting my channel. This book is largely centered around 2 main characters, Ifemelu and Obinze, who are in a relationship in Nigeria, and Ifemelu decides that she wants to immigrate to the United States, and her story is largely told through flashbacks to the time when she was in Nigeria, when she first got to America, all of the different components of her immigration process. She writes a blog about race, which is really fascinating because you do get to read a lot of those particular entries. You also have Obinze, who is staying in Nigeria and then at some point decides to try and immigrate to England, and you get the immigration perspective from 2 different countries, which I also thought was really pretty well done. I did really like Obinze's side of the story more than Ifemelu. That part I was just kind of like, I connected more with Obinze, and I'm not sure why. The blog posts were fascinating, and they really did make me think quite a bit. I'm not sure how much of it was trying to tell me how I should think versus letting me read and think for myself about some things, but a lot of excellent points in there about immigration, about race relations. I just thought I thought it was very well done. Yeah, there are also some really troubling scenes, especially with Ifemelu when she first immigrates to America, that are tough. I'm not going to spoil about whether or not they are together or not together. That's one of the more interesting kind of components of the book. So that one, hopefully you'll read it and then see that. Just know that there is a little bit of problematic content in it. So if trigger warnings are important to you, definitely go and look those up. Also, if authors and problematic authors are important to you, I would would encourage you to go look up this author as well, because there have been some problematic statements and definitely some views that don't align with my personal views, which makes it a little tough. It did take a little bit of the shine off of this book once one of my buddy readers had mentioned kind of what was going on. So that was very, very disappointing. But the book itself, I really did enjoy quite a bit. And it wasn't quite the 5-star read, but it was one that we set a very aggressive pace. I ended up reading this with Anne Novella, Fraser Simon, and my friend Angela, and we ended up setting 100 pages per day pace, which is wild, especially considering I didn't want to read at all. But it ended up being really, really good because it did make me dig into a book. I'm very, very thankful to all of them and all of the discussion and all of the pieces out on Boxer. I really do appreciate it quite a bit. But with this book, we do get to go from 874 to 873, and thankfully it was on my 2023 list. So for that, we go from 36 to 35. I do have another book though. This one is a really fascinating one. This was another buddy read, which is about the only reason why I feel like I picked it up this month. I did this as a buddy read with Greg over at Another Bibliophile Reads, and it was such a great buddy read as well. The book is a little strange because it's hard to know what to talk about with this one. The book is A Void by Perec. And this book was originally published in this book was originally published in French in 1968 and was first translated into English in 1995. It has been translated into 11 languages, which is really, really impressive when you understand what the hook is, or what the, I don't want to say gimmick, what the piece is in this that makes this book really, really unusual. I don't want to talk about what that is because it took me a little bit to figure it out, and it actually took Greg saying, "Did you find it yet?" to make me really kind of go, what in the world am I missing? The hook or the gimmick or the pattern in this book is incredible once you know what it is, especially when it was translated from French and then had to be translated into English and they had to maintain that same thing. That part is really fascinating, and I think I was more enthralled with that than anything else with this book. The story is not much of a story, to be honest with you. There's a character whose name is Anton Val, and he goes missing, and his friends are trying to figure out what happens to him. But you'd never really get kind of a full story, end-to-end story in it. And so I think it's largely more about the gimmick, about the pattern, than about being kind of a plot-driven, character-driven story for me. That's the part we didn't have a ton to talk about because it's like, what am I actually reading here? I'm not entirely sure, but it is fascinating. It is fascinating, and I tried the gimmick, just writing something with this kind of gimmick, and I couldn't even write a sentence. So it is impressive once you know what that is. But yeah, the Avoid, this author actually has 5 books on the 1001 Book Countdown, so I'll be reading more by them, but I don't know if all of them have the same kind of playful thing in it or not. So we'll see. But A Void, with this book we get to go from 873 to 872, and it was on my 2023 list. So we go from 35 to 34. Okay, getting closer to 26, but not quite there. And the last book that I have to talk about is my 1001 book club pick, which was Go Tell It on the Mountain by James Baldwin. This book was originally published in 1953. Baldwin only has 2 books on the 1001 Book Countdown, this one and Giovanni's Room, which I read last year. Giovanni's Room was an easy 5-star read for me. This wasn't quite the 5-star read I wanted it to be. I had very high expectations going into it. This is somewhat semi-autobiographical from what I had read. It is largely set in Harlem in the 1930s. Baldwin lived in Harlem, and the book is broken up into 3 different parts. Part 1 is hard. It's so hard to read. Beautiful language, but so hard. There are some abuse scenes in it. Again, if you trigger warnings are something that are important, definitely go check those out with this particular book. beautifully, beautifully written, but very, very tough. Part 2 and part 3, I didn't connect with actually quite as much as I did in part 1. In part 1, I was like, oh, this is going to be an easy read. And then when I hit part 2 and part 3, I just struggled through some things with it. And I think this is more related to me being in a slump. I also started this way back at the beginning of the month and then put it down for a couple of weeks, I think, and then finally came back to it just last weekend. And I feel like this is one that I may have to reread at some point, because I don't know if I personally gave it enough attention, enough of my time. I feel like I waited too long in between reading it. I mean, that is part of what the reading slump was doing, was just like, no. And then once I had started picking up some of these other books, I just said, I don't have anyone personally asking me about this one, so I put it aside. That's really, really tough. But I'd still say Giovanni's Room was a cut above this one for me. This was also, I believe, his debut novel. And for me, Giovanni's Room just knocked it out of the park. So yeah, I was definitely still good. It just didn't connect, except for that first part where I really felt for a lot of the characters in that first part. So, but this was... I'm really glad that I read it. I am so happy that I'm done with it. I feel like I barely made it with this one as far as making it in time for the end of the month. And especially since it was for my own book club, that was really, really hard, that I just didn't have a lot of time to read it earlier than that. But with this book, we do get to go from 872 to 871, and it was on my 2023 list. So we're going from 34 to 33. Fantastic. 33. Okay. But that's all I have. I don't have anything else for the countdown for this week. So I'm ending June at 33, about 7 books behind. 7 books behind. That's a pretty big deficit to try and make up. I'm not sure how I'll do. As far as what I'm reading next, I have this one on the go, A Room with a View by E.M. Forrester. I am reading this with Marilyn Maya Mendoza, and that is always a lovely experience. And we've had a wonderful time chatting and catching up with reading this particular book. So I'm so thankful we were able to fit this in. I am about here in this book. So right about 2/3 of the way through. I should finish this in the next couple of days, but I didn't want to rush it and try and put it in this video for today. But A Room with a View will be my next one. Unfortunately, the only book I officially have on my July TBR is my 1001 book club pick, which is Jane Eyre. And I have a other bunch of pile of possibilities. So we'll see how I catch up, if I catch up. I don't know. I'm trying not to worry about it too much. I'm more happy that I'm reading something again and not focusing too much on whether or not it's a 1001 book or not. But anyway, have you read any of these books? What you think of them? Would love to hear in the comments down below. You certainly can just leave me an emoji if you don't want to leave a comment. Happy to get that as well. But as always, like, comment, and subscribe. And until next time, everyone, thanks. Bye.